I'm going to call this meeting to order. It is 7:15. We do have a quorum. Ms. Carol Fabian will not be joining us this evening, and Mr. O'Brien will be remote. Mr. O'Brien, can you hear us? Bill?
I hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be calling on the votes. I'll be calling on you just for a voice vote, so confirm you're there. And so then we'll head to the invocation and pledge.
Please stand. We beseech you, Almighty God, to bless this meeting of the Board of Education, so guide and rule over our hearts and our minds, that all our deliberations and decisions may be in accordance with your will, and lead to the advancement and welfare of the community of Stratford, whom we serve. Amen. You guys can turn to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, typically I try to wear, during these board meetings, a suit and tie. Because of the heat, I decided today to step it down, so I'm going to give Mr. Dugas a world of credit for coming in a suit and tie with the 90-degree weather, and world respect for you for sticking to your guns. I wanted to thank, so this has been a very busy year for all of us. This board's been extremely busy. I know our staff and administration have been really busy, but there's two people who kind of, time after time behind the scenes, have put in, a great work to make our boards successful, to the communication process. Teresa Lakutis, who's our secretary, she's done a ton of work this year with retyping policies, our bylaws, curriculums, whatever it is. If anybody's ever been here at any time, she's probably the first one to come and last one to leave. So I want to thank you for all the hard work you've done, all the typing you've done. Your fingers must be sore, but behind the scenes, you don't always get the credit you should. So I want to thank you for that. And Luz Petrino. Luz Petrino, nobody ever sees him because he's behind the camera, but he comes to all our meetings, all our committee meetings. He records us, usually makes us look good, and gets it up, gets it streamed online, and does it in a very professional manner. So again, as we come to the end of the school year, I wanted to give thanks because you're the people who nobody sees but do some of the great yeoman's work. So thank you.
Thank you.
At the last meeting, I talked a little bit about cell phones. We are soon going to be passing, hopefully, a cell phone policy. I would just ask that the board members, I know sometimes we use the cell phones for looking up information or verifying dates with our calendars, but as far as communications with the public or other board members during board meetings, they are FOIable, but if we're going to have a policy that says kids, you should put them away, then I think we as a board should at least set that example for them, and unless absolutely necessary. And I know our last chairman had said the same thing. Andrea had said during those meetings it looks more professional if we're not constantly fumbling with our cell phones and distracted. So I'm just going to ask the board members, as we move forward, we do that and stand behind our cell phone policy as well. So thank you. We have the public forum. I think we have one speaker. I lost in my pile of papers here. Tom Kelly. And you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and you get a warning when you have 30 seconds left. So.
Thank you. Tom Kelly, I live at 100 Bernier Terrace, and I want to thank the members of the Board of Education for your volunteer service to the town. It is a hard job. You only get one chance to get it right for students, and your efforts are appreciated. I'd like to address the item on tonight's agenda regarding the use of carryover funds. Recently, my wife Marcy and I had the opportunity to talk to two students who are just finishing up their junior years at Stratford High School. I asked them how things were going in their school, and interestingly, they both talked about the same thing in response. They both said that things were pretty good, except for the loss of their school librarian. They both talked about what a loss this was and how this librarian was a dedicated educator who motivated students. They said that there had been a loss of library services at Stratford High, and they didn't think they were still able to check out books from the library. Listening to these students talk about the loss of their librarian hurt my heart. It really had an impact on both Marcy and me, enough to provoke us to both speak up. I sent an email recently to the entire Board of Ed on this matter, and I thank those of you who took the time to respond. I did additional research and learned that Stratford has been designated by the state as an Alliance School District. Sadly, this puts Stratford in about the bottom 20% of state school districts in terms of student performance. This too is heartbreaking. I do not believe that this is the fault of students or teachers in this school district. I cannot fathom how an Alliance School District has laid off school librarians, and I believe this loss has a direct impact on student learning. I'm not aware if the remaining funds in the carryover account are already accounted for or allocated for other purposes, or if a restriction has been placed on how those funds can be used. If there are remaining funds that are unspoken for, I urge the board to consider using those funds to reinstate the librarians. I understand that using carryover for an operating budget item creates a funding plan. But students deserve a better high school experience than a library with no librarian. Using the surplus funds would restore librarian services for an entire year and gives the town and the Board of Ed an entire year to figure out how to maintain the librarians going forward.
You have about 30 seconds.
If using carryover funds is not a possibility, I encourage the board to continue to seek out efficiencies that would allow the librarians to be reinstated. I close by saying that I'm not an adversary to the Board of Education. I am an ally of quality education and learning. I will continue to respectfully advocate for the funds necessary to provide Stratford students with the best educational opportunity the town can reasonably provide. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good night.
Thank you. We have no other speakers, so we'll move on to our attorney's report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to present for your approval a collective bargaining agreement with the School Custodians Association. I'm happy to report we were able to reach an agreement this time as opposed to last time when we ended up in protracted binding arbitration that I think was unnecessary and wasteful and just delayed everything. The contract we're bringing to you is for a 4-year period, and the simplest components of it, and the most important, of course, are the wages. And we're looking at a general wage increase for July 1, 2025 of 2.5%. In 2026, 2.5%. 2027, 2.5%, and then 3% in the 28-29 year. There is a modest increase in the cost share contribution. It's flat the first year, then it goes up 0.5%, and then another 0.5%, a total of 1%, which will bring us for the 27-28 year to just under 20% cost share contribution, which is more or less pushing the limit in terms of what I think a lot of us would think was fair and reasonable, particularly for a group of this nature. There were a few other modest changes to the contract, one of which is allowing sick leave to accumulate from 135 to 150 days. Also allowing 5 days per year instead of 3 for use for family illness from their sick leave, which is consistent with other contracts that we have. A modest increase in life insurance from $35,000 to $45,000. We've also added district-provided cell phone for drivers only, so that we can obviously communicate with them importantly as needed. There was concept known as super seniority, which we've agreed to, and that basically designates certain officers in the union. If there were a reduction in force, it preserves their position so that the union has continuity and leadership going into what would obviously be a difficult time. If that were to happen, a pretty common provision in a collective bargaining agreement. There are a couple other minor adjustments, but including an increase for the head drivers. The consensus was with the input of the superintendent that their responsibilities really have increased, and so we had a minor adjustment upwards. And that's really the long and the short of it. So it's obviously consistent with where contracts, or I should tell you, it's consistent with where contracts are settling. I think it's fair and reasonable, and I would recommend it for your approval. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And incidentally, Ms. Mangini assures me that you have the money for next year, so to fund that 2.5% increase.
So, Tim, what was, prior to this new contract, what were their annual increases in place?
It was lower than that.
Okay.
It was in the 2% range.
Okay.
So maybe it should be exact numbers. But it was definitely lower than that.
Well, most of the contracts we've negotiated this year have been around 2.5%.
Yeah.
That's typically. Anybody have any?
Yeah, just a quick question about the cell phones.
Yes.
Floyd. Are we providing them full use of that cell phone, or just when they're driving, or are they expected how is that going?
Can I jump in?
Sure.
The cell phones really they're for special education pickup purposes.
Right.
So what they do is they were contacting families to let them know the driver had arrived, so students could be brought out safely and put on. We don't want them doing that from their personal cell
Of course.
phones. So it is for when they are parked and letting a family know that they have arrived to pick up a child.
Are they gonna be taking them home? Are they gonna be responsible for charging them? Are they going, all that kind of stuff?
I think the answer,
Yeah,
Pam?
I'm pretty sure that they do stay with the transportation office. Susan Hughes monitors that, and a
Okay.
couple of them had already had them, but because we are getting new vans and you last year in this budget approved new drivers, we are going to keep, and they're sub-drivers, we're gonna keep a couple of extra phones with Susan so that when they are dispatched out, they will have a phone.
I just wanted to make sure we
Yeah,
weren't
no, good
like
question.
sending a phone home with, that's fine.
And confirming last time it was 2%.
Any other questions? So you would look for a motion to approve?
Yes, sir.
So I'd look for a motion to approve the contract as negotiated.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Bedell,
Second.
seconded by Ms. D'Angelo. Any discussion? Bill, Mr. O'Brien, did you have any,
No, thanks, I'm just sorry, I missed the final meetings. I was on that committee, I'm sorry, I missed out on the final meeting.
all
I
right,
was
so-
also on those meetings, and I would say that it was a pleasure to negotiate with that union. I think it was a wonderful committee, and so, don't worry, Bill, we got you covered.
Well, thank you for the both of you for your time to do that for us.
Definitely, sir.
That being said, I will do a roll call vote. Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Powers?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, motion passed unanimously.
Okay.
Before you run off, does anybody have any questions? I do actually. I would like to ask, officially ask you for a legal opinion. I ask that you would work with the town attorneys. It is in reference to term limits. What I would like to know is, are we a special case or home rule charter?
Special case, you mean special act?
Special act.
Mhm.
Are the term limits part of the charter or an ordinance? And and how would they be changed? How could they be amended either way? So if it's an ordinance, is it just a simple thing, it's a part of the charter, does it have to go to a referendum? Whatever the mechanism is.
Sure.
And then if you could provide that in writing and share that with the entire board, once you have it, perhaps even the council.
Will do. Probably the purview of the city, the town attorney's office, but I think I know somebody over there, so I'll reach out and make sure you get an opinion.
I thought you might, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess that's it, for you guys.
Happy summer.
Yeah, you guys too.
See you at the end of August. When, oh, just while you're, when does the, I think the administrators is the next negotiation?
Yes.
When does that, do you have a timeframe?
We have a start date on the, August 6th, I believe, so we will definitely, I think you were gonna be on.
I said I would be on that, yes.
So we will definitely be sending out some communication to get that started.
Okay, all right, excellent. Yeah, as soon as you have, and was it just myself, or was there somebody else, or just Angela Palmer?
It's usually two people.
Yeah.
Okay, sign me up.
I mean, if you don't want to, you don't have to, you know, okay.
Usually you wait to get volunteered. I
Jill,
appreciate your
if
volunteer.
you want me to do it, I'll do it. It's
Sign
fine.
me up, it's okay.
It's one of those things, whoever wants it, take a step forward, everybody
Right,
takes
right.
one step backwards, and you're in.
All right.
All right, thank you,
Come on,
sir.
folks.
So we have no state legislators report, no state board of ed report, no presentations, so we will move down to the superintendent's executive report.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to give you my final executive report for this school year. So as we close out the 2024-2025 school year, I want to begin by sharing my gratitude for the Stratford Public Schools team, our teachers, our administrators, and staff, whose consistent commitment to students made this a year of continued growth and progress. I also want to publicly thank my cabinet for their outstanding leadership. Our assistant superintendents of teaching and learning have led a successful launch of an official curriculum review cycle, ensuring continuous instructional improvement. That has been ongoing for multiple years. To have it finally done is amazing. Our directors of technology have oversaw strategic platform transitions that have not only modernized our systems, but have also delivered meaningful cost savings through restructuring, and they are now able to allow our teachers to access our ClassLink in a way that makes everything much more feasible. So it's been really wonderful. Our chief operating officer in the business department and the special education department expertly navigated the district deficit for special education and ended the year on budget, and that is no small feat. And that is thanks to you as a board for working with us through this as well. We had a lot of complexity in our financial landscape, so for them to be able to do that, I would be remiss to not shout them out. Our Director of Human Resources has been instrumental in modernizing our HR systems, so stay tuned, because we are bringing a new tool for the 2025-2026 school year to streamline hiring, onboarding, personnel management, and to make our HR department more responsive and efficient. You may even see an AI bot. Our task force, the AI task force developed and secured BOE approval for Stratford's first ever AI policy, and we have professional development and implementation planned for the upcoming school year. Our cell phone task force, and remember our task force had community members, town members, board members, teachers, so it was a wide variety of stakeholders in each of these task forces. Our cell phone task force finalized and proposed a policy that's now before you for approval tonight. The communication task force produced community and administrative guidebooks to improve communication, clarity, and transparency across our district. Those are now up on our website and available to all. We are seeing the impact of our collective efforts in our student outcomes. Chronic absenteeism went from 19% to 16%, thanks to targeted interventions and efforts of our LEAP workers. Discipline incidents are down significantly across the district. We decreased ISS and OSS by 11.3%. AIP referrals continue to support students and align with restorative practice, which are now required by the state, that were needed to reduce repeat incidents. On the academic front, our preliminary data is really showing positive trends. SBAC and ELA scores increased to 36%. SBAC math held steady. NGSS proficiency rose from 34 to 38. CTOS performance improved from 22 to 28. SAT scores jumped 39 points over the last year, with 50% of our students meeting at least one benchmark, which is the highest in 4 years. Our Lost Links performance continues to grow, and it exceeded the state average again in both achievement and mastery. We know we still have a long way to go, but the data is heading in the right direction, academically, socially, and behaviorally. We have held firm to the redistricting plan, which was challenging because it is hard to see people upset about change. But our class sizes for next year are healthy and balanced, and it's gonna allow us to provide a stronger conditions for learning. As we look ahead, we will carry this momentum into the 2025-2026 school year, where we will lift student voice in deeper and more authentic ways across all grade levels. We will fully implement the cell phone and AI policies, ensuring thoughtful integration of new practices and technologies, and we are going to continue to strengthen our connection with the community. Finally, I would like to take a minute to thank the Board of Education for your partnership and your support, and to the town of Stratford for standing with us. I am proud to serve this vibrant and forward-thinking community. And as we close this chapter, we are already building the next chapter together. So thank you.
Any questions for the superintendent? So, can you give us a little description? It's going to come up a little later in the capital improvement plan, but can you give us a little description on your thoughts on Honey Spot School?
Yes, so we're already actively looking at the grants. So I told you a little bit in the past that the state did approve the legislation did pass. They are allowing us to have seed grants. Some of the seed grants have already been given to us. They're like an entitlement grant. So they're saying, hey, you can use this money for staff. But now there are competitive grants to improve school facilities for special education programs specifically. So in August, I do intend on coming to you and asking you to vote to approve Honey Spot location to be a school again. If it is a school again, then we are allowed to apply for those competitive grants to be able to upgrade and expand our special education programs. It's a bit of a process, so it starts with you as a Board of Ed. You as a Board of Ed decide to make it a school again, then it has to go to the town, the fire marshal has to come, everyone has to inspect it, the town has to agree that it may add some capital funding and budget to it in order for us to improve. But what the state is offering is a higher reimbursement rate and grant money for us to revamp some programs and buildings. It does have to be used specifically for special education programs. So our thought is really to be able to meet the needs of our at-risk youth and students with emotional disabilities, because right now the waiting list for our outplacements is sometimes 6 and 8 months for us to get the students in, because there's just not enough seats outside of here. So we know we can do that internally. We would have to upgrade the building. It's going to need a new boiler, Mike. I think it needs a roof. It's going to need, just some general upgrades, but we do believe we can get some of those competitive grants. It has to be a school for us to apply for them.
And I'll.
Why is it decommissioned now?
I wasn't here when that happened, so.
I mean, I know it was a long time ago, but is there something specific, or was it just a town vote, a board vote? Do we know that?
Board voted, then town voted. It's the same way you make it to school. You vote and then they vote. I have no idea what went behind them not, having that building. Maybe the town had plans to use it for something that never came to fruition. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So Victoria Soda opened, and that was,
Yeah.
so Victoria Soda.
Yeah.
You know what year it was that you decommissioned it from, or?
Really don't. I believe I was still an AP at high school.
2002.
That would have been before my time.
No, I'm sorry, 2012? 13? I had two in my head.
I mean, I can get you the details and the history behind it. I did thoroughly look through the process that you would have to go through, and it really starts with a board vote. And then inspections have to happen, and the town has to decide if they are financially willing
Are there state inspections, sorry, to
Go
are there state inspections that have to go through that?
Right now, it said fire marshal safety inspections.
And just, can you share with the board that list of,
I sure
of, the process?
Yep.
Question about the resources that are there currently. What would happen to those programs?
stay.
They would stay during the renovations?
Yeah, so it'd have to be planned if we would wanna renovate in summer.
Yeah, you have to do.
The renovations, because we gave AIP a beautiful facelift using ESSER dollars, the renovations really come down to a new boiler, a new roof. And we would want to schedule those to make sure those are done in the summer, but you wanna go for the grants first. So we would put into the grants that we would want a new roof, because it is a construction grant to expand special ed programs. If we got the grant, we would want to do that over a summer, not while the kids are in there.
Okay, and then, to make it this program, I went to the CAVE conference and they talked all about that school in Windsor and they talked all about how, the criteria to make it a special ed school and all the hoops they jump through and everything. Are we prepared financially to do that? Cause that seemed like a large process to repurpose that building and.
So that's how we're writing the grant. So I will answer that question when we secure the grant.
So, and just so part of it too, in front of you, you had gotten a list, as a request from the town. They have requested that we add this to our capital improvement plan, which is, about 2.35 million, plus about another 550,000 for solar panels. And they wanted to commit to this in the event that we got to the point where we got the grant. So, they just want to have it in place in case we need it.
And you get an automatic higher reimbursement rate for making a special education program. That is already set up. It's just the starter grant funds that are set aside specifically for building purposes and renovating buildings. Those are competitive. So unlike the seed grant where it just counted the number of special education students you have in a district and gave you an allotted amount of money, to actually fix your buildings, you have to apply for these grants. In order to apply for the grant, it needs to be a building. So we're thinking we'll start applying in September, October, so we're gonna bring to you in August, for you guys to vote to make it a building and then vote.
The current deadline is June 30th, so.
We'd have June 30th the following year.
So there's no way we're gonna get it by this year?
Yeah, no, well,
It's
not,
gonna be a
and
process.
nor has the state released the grants yet.
Yeah.
So this is a write the grants next year, get it submitted by June 30th.
So we've got a solid year. I think, to close it off.
For planning.
Just one question. If we go through with this and it becomes a special ed building mainly, how long would it have to be, if something happened, we made changes and didn't use it as a special ed building, special ed programs later in the future, how long before we would have to be pay back the grant if we had to reimburse back because we were getting more funds?
I would have to look that up. I'm not.
If it wasn't used.
Like prorated would be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the idea behind expanding it would be for us to be able to accept tuition from other districts to keep it ongoing and running independent. That is the point of us expanding the grants. And as you guys well know, the special education department here visits all of the other district placements, and we're not always happy with what we're seeing for services. And so we think we can do it once a year.
And this is asking a lot, but seeing that we have 90+ students out of district placed at the moment. 85. How many would you anticipate, if we were to make this what you want to make it now, how many of those students would we be able to bring back in-house?
That would be like a mid-year question for me to answer, and part of it is because we would wanna figure out how many of our students we would wanna service and how many seats we would wanna hold for tuition-paying students from other districts. The capacity of that building is over 200 students, but we're not gonna fill it because it's gonna be a special education school.
Right.
So you're talking, let's say if we decided to build our program and had 60 students, do we want 30 of our own that return and 30 that we
Hold
hold for, funding seats? So that really is kind of like a deeper down the line question.
Project Uplift, part of it is when the student goes on out-of-school suspension, they go to this program, and then they're still getting credit for going to this program. but the idea it's out of school. When it becomes a school, does that change?
So previously, kids that were expelled or would go to, they went to Alpha, there's a room within that building, and that is allowed and legal. They do need a separate location, and we would be using the separate floors. But we would also be using it for all similar students, similar needs.
Does Huntsville have an elevator?
Yes.
Has it been
It works.
updated?
Updated, I can't guarantee that yet, but yes.
I just noticed that's not one of the things on
It was,
the list.
we used
it is-
it on
it is in
the,
the
we used
capital
it on the tour
Okay,
before we did
got it.
So
Project Uplift.
HoneySpot was, remember, we used to partner with Aspire, so it really is up to code for special education, because it was a special education school for students with autism.
Yeah.
Prior to this.
It was really nicely kept because
Yeah.
it doesn't have a.
Yeah, when we took the tour,
Yeah,
it was,
was-
I didn't take it with you, but we took it, it was
So-
very well kept, yeah.
That's why I think we should be able to do the renovations needed over a summer, because it's not like you need a whole rebuild, right? The school was kept nicely, it was for special education students prior, so it really has all the accessibility we would need for it to have for us to be able to expand. This is not a snap your fingers and it's done. This is a apply for the grant, spend all your planning, then fix, then start to rebuild and bring it back. You know, you're talking like 2-3 years before you have a full up and running program. It takes a lot of planning and a lot of organization, but you have the people going to do it, and it's financially responsible thing, it's a service to our students, and that is also what the state is encouraging. It's encouraging us to regionalize and start working together to be able to support our students with exceptionalities.
Well, I know you don't like thank yous, but thank you for your forward thinking, and always looking to make Stratford better. And these conversations came, again, in collaboration between your office and the mayor's office, and they've, you'll see as we go through the capital improvement plan, they've committed a significant amount of dollars to, in the event we get the grants, that they would, so that's one of the steps in
And
the
we have
process.
had a lot of luck with grants, and I can't promise that we would get all of them, but we really, you know, we have a wonderful grant writer, she's very thorough, and so, you know, I am hopeful for us. The other thing it does to help us is, you know, if we ever didn't get the federal grant money, right, we have to think about how we're gonna continue to sustain these programs to service our students with needs. So I am hopeful we will keep you posted on the whole project, but we can't apply for a grant until it becomes a school.
More to follow.
More to follow.
Any other questions? You're up.
Okay, and I will just add that I have been with other districts that have been really successful about bringing, students into a special education program, and it really can be lucrative. So Heather and I have had a lot of conversations, since she took the role as Fed Director 5 years ago, about that, so I'm looking forward to seeing that come to fruition as well. Part of my report this evening is short and sweet, nothing formal. I just wanted to share a few important updates with you. As I noted previously with regard to unpaid school meal charges for the 24-25 school year, it looks like we're gonna be around $95,000, which I think they had kind of estimated around 100 most of the year. And we really do work with the schools who have honestly made considerable efforts to try to collect that debt, but their hands are tied as well. There's very little that we can do at this point. But we did proactively seek and received approval from the state to use our available funds in our district's food service account, which again will help us significantly by not having to pay that debt as required through the general operating budget. So that's some good news. We're also in the process of closing out fiscal year 25, and while there's still a lot of items that we need to wrap up, we'll be continuing to pay invoices for outstanding encumbrances, utilities, and other ongoing expenses throughout the summer months. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be bringing you that housekeeping transfer later in August when we've completed all of that work. And if you may recall, we have that big educational financial system report that is due to the state by the end of August. So that's when we're really tightening up our numbers, and Susan Nicholson is just phenomenal with making certain her reconciliations are right to the penny. So I know that we'll be able to give you that information in August, September timeframe. Also, we're working on setting up the financial software system for the fiscal year 26 budget. We're rolling over the new budget. As well, we're updating all accounts and entering salary information, and as I'm sure you can understand, there's a lot of changes to salaries, to teaching staff, to all of our staff throughout the summer, so that takes a little bit of work, but when you do finally see your reports later on in September, as you may recall, oftentimes we have to move money from a grade 6 to a grade 5 or whatever the case may be, so we're always making those tweaks, and I do appreciate you changing board policy so that we don't have to come running to you for every single one of them. It does make our life a little easier since that's just ongoing housekeeping as well. And lastly, I too just want to express some real appreciation to both the pupil services staff as well as the business office, including Joanna Nigerian Garb. And I think you hear her name a little bit more because she took on a role this year that was challenging. Unfortunately, with the untimely passing of our grant administrator, a lot of us jumped on the bandwagon trying to just keep things going, and we were really grateful that Joanna did take on that position. But she and Susan Nicholson worked very closely together, and in mitigating some of the deficit for fiscal year 25, we really took a hard look on where do we have a little wiggle room in our grants, which we don't frequently have, but sometimes when you have carryover, you can shift a CIA who costs more into the grant and maybe minimize the impact on the operating budget. And it's something we've always done, but because of the deficit, we really had many, many meetings looking at things like that. And the SPED staff helped with renegotiating contracts with vendors, looking at tightening services. So it truly was a collaborative effort. I think we have some great people in all the positions, and we joked about Kate and the ladies across the hall from me from SPED being a little scared to come in my office sometimes, but they know that at the end of the day, I get a little freaked out when people tell me there's problems, but then I take a deep breath and we all work together. And Heather's smirking because she knows I never get freaked out about problems. But it's all good. I just feel like we are going in the right direction, that we are all communicating, and we really do appreciate the support from the board as well. So that's my report this evening.
Any questions? So before we jump to the assistant superintendent's report, I'm going to go out of order and jump down to number 3, so we can let Ms. Mangini go. So number 3, propose approval to allocate the fiscal year 24 carryover balance toward the fiscal year 25 projected operating deficit. This came over with an approval, with a positive recommendation from the Finance Committee. So I'll be looking for a motion for the Board of Ed to approve the use of up to $500,000 from the available $1 million fiscal year 24 carryover balance to address any general operating deficit for fiscal year 2025. The remaining carryover balance shall remain unallocated until further board action.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Padella.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kennedy. Any discussion? Ms. Mangini, can you just give us some details for those who didn't see the finance meeting?
Certainly. Again, I will just mention that as a result of having that carryover for up to $1 million and counting on it to pay for the right to read, that was, we were able to save some money on that, so we used less of the $1 million. In addition, we are also allowed to extend some of that reading program unexpectedly to Alliance due to savings. So as a result, we do probably have approximately $680,000, so we are asking to utilize that up to the $500,000 to cover our deficit for fiscal year 25. And actually, we really do believe that this allows for responsible financial planning, for applying a portion of the prior year surplus to mitigate this budget shortfall. And it also leaves a little bit of, or or provides a little bit of financial assistance to the town as well, because this is unexpected on everybody's part. So those are the three buckets, and that we are trying to utilize them to their fullest. And of course, as you pointed out in your motion, any balance to that fund will remain unallocated until the board decides what to do with it.
If you look at what's going on around the state with other towns' budgets, and we are actually in a very solid position because some of the planning of yourselves and the support of this board, and again, that's the forward thinking, so addressing that as a cliff and a number of things, but any other questions, comments? No? Mr. O'Brien, if you want to unmute, I'll call you on in a minute. Motion was made. Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Daniel Powers?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passed unanimously.
Thank you
So,
very much.
we will see you at the end of the summer, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Max.
And then we'll jump back up to the Assistant Superintendent's report.
All right, good evening. And Dr. Diorio and I put together just a few things that we wanted to make sure you were aware of as we entered this summer. Some things we finished up on and some things that are leading into our summer work. First off is this board just hinted at our summer curriculum writing initiative. Again, thanks to the board and the budget that you approved, along with the efforts of our teachers and our department chairs. We have a number of teachers who are ready, willing, and able, and some have already started writing curriculum for this summer. The initiative encompasses everything from minor revisions to major revisions to the development of new courses, and it should in total affect over 30 courses at all levels. So that will be an impressive dent that we can make in updating our curriculum. This effort does ensure our curriculum remains current, engaging, and aligned with educational standards while meeting the evolving needs of our student population. So we're excited that, again, some of that work has already started, and we look forward to providing updates on that at the end of the summer. We also, a week ago, last Monday, our administrative team participated in a productive preliminary retreat. We also meet again in August before the school year begins. But this focused on celebrating our successes, a lot of which Ms. Board just shared with you earlier, both academically and with our attendance and our disciplinary figures as well. So we celebrate our successes while strategically planning for the upcoming school year. Key areas covered included IT updates, new instructional technology programs, including Magic School. We talked about our family engagement strategies. We talked about the successes we had this past year, as well as those we want to use for 25-26. We also talked about some of the recent policies, including school climate and the cell phone policy, which we'll discuss later. We did some data analysis using our Panorama platform, along with our AI tools to analyze and produce strategies. And we also continued our conversation about feedback. That's been a topic of conversation with our administrative team.
No matter whether you're an administrator or a teacher, our curriculum writing set for the budget is $45 an hour.
Beginning July 1.
Beginning July 1.
Sorry for the
I just wanted to make sure that people didn't go, I'm not doing it anymore. It was just a stipend.
You're getting paid what we promised. So I just want to again say thank you to you guys. I mean, it's really amazing what can happen with solid leadership when we work together. You know, we tap into our school's knowledge base, and we support those people who are willing to do the work, because it seems like, you know, more and more people are coming forward with a desire to chip in and help, and it all comes down to solid leadership and the support that they need to do what they love to do. So thank you guys too. It's just amazing to see the changes that are happening. So
Yeah, we're excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's important to note too, with the supported budget, for the first time ever, ESY is fully staffed. We don't have to contract services. They were actually able to fill all of their ESY positions with our staff, and that's huge. It's really good, and they do have a large crew of curriculum writers, and that is very exciting. So I am thankful to our teachers, our tutors, our people who are willing to come in and work on their summer to make Stratford better. It's commendable and appreciated.
It is. So that's it for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I look for acceptance of the meeting minutes for the June 3rd, 2025 special meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Bedell, second by Mr. Cormier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Up. Bill's a yes. Motion passed unanimously. Proposed personnel assignments, resignation, et cetera. Look for a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. D'Angelo Powers, second by Ms. Bedell. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Mr. Bedell, Mr. O'Brien is a yes. Okay. Motion passed unanimously, thank you. There are no budget transfers. Number 3 we've gone through. Down to number 4, electronic devices, cell phone policy, a second read. Is there anything you guys want to add in regards to it, or?
No, there's really nothing new. I saw you check, I did bring down some of the cases that are discussed in the policy
Yep.
in terms of what we might use in the classrooms at the high school level, so other than that, no.
Okay. So in the back, for those who can see, I don't know if you can maybe give them a little pan over of
Oh, yeah.
on the camera, what these boxes will look like.
Can we grab one and bring it up?
Bring it up here.
I'll grab the one that we may actually
Yeah.
This was the most cost efficient and quality-wise, it allows for flexibility.
We're talking about high school use.
Yep, high
here.
school use, and this allows for some flexibility because it's styrofoam, so if someone has a fatter phone case, it can fit.
And these, it looks like they'll be mounted on the wall as well.
So these mount onto the wall,
Okay.
okay, but they can be removed easily in case of an emergency. They have a handle so that the teacher can safely leave the room. Students can go to the safe area with the teacher and then receive their device, so they can contact families. Okay, so it's a well thought out process. You're not dragging something where phones are gonna fly everywhere. They're decently affordable, a lot cheaper than the Yonder pouches. We've also gotten, numerous positive reports from districts that have gone with Yonder pouches, so we're feeling pretty good. It's very light.
Do we know other districts that have gone with
Yes.
any of these options?
Yeah, these are what they would call the towers.
Right.
And they've had pretty good success with them. So per the policy, the students would enter the high school classroom with their cell phones off, and they would put this in and take their seat, and at the end of class, they would take it. They cannot get it out to go use the bathroom, they cannot get it out to go to the nurse or the main office. It gets removed at the end of the class.
What if they leave early?
If they haven't passed to dismiss, they're gone, right? Yeah. But it's very lightweight, pretty sturdy, hangs on the wall, should be removed. So this is the one we're most likely gonna go with.
And after you come back to the microphone.
How many slots are in there?
36.
And if I put more than 36 students in a class, I'm not gonna have a happy teacher, so 36 is good.
So as far as the funding for the boxes, where does that come from? And I don't know the overall cost, but if we.
You're asking that one, Ms. Jeannie left. She found the funding, it was
Okay.
about $10,000.
Okay.
In order for us to put one in every single classroom in both high schools.
Okay.
She probably took it out of retirement savings.
Okay.
I'm not 100% positive, but it was a lot cheaper than trying to go with Yonder pouches or other directions.
We had quoted that, and that was like an $80,000 charge.
Yeah.
It was something outrageous.
Yeah, it was very
And
expensive.
they weren't effective.
Well, and right now districts are dealing with students who didn't turn them in, and you have to turn them into the company, and if you don't, you have to pay that fee.
Right.
So there are students who didn't turn them in, they don't have the money to pay the fees, it gets really complicated. This seems a little more straightforward, 10,000 is within our budget, it allows one for every classroom.
And, I mean, I know it's not a small amount of money, but it's $10,000, and that's, a very fiscally prudent way to address, the situation. Ms. Corman's right. Did you? Jill?
So it's gonna stay in the homeroom?
Every classroom has one.
Okay, but when they come in, they're at the end of the class, they get it back?
Mhm.
So each class they're gonna
Yeah,
keep
so
it
high
in?
school students per the policy are allowed to have their phones in the hallways and cafeterias. Okay, but if you are even in a study hall, it has to be locked away. If phones are out during a study hall, they will be confiscated, they will be brought to the main office, and parents will have to come pick the phone up.
And we've also set up policy where, I'm sorry, We've also set a policy where teachers can request a waiver if they're doing a project that requires the use of a cell phone for research or for whatever reason.
So a teacher has to, it's electronic, it's very quick, but a teacher would have to submit that we will be using our cell phones for this. The principal has to approve that, and then you can use them in the classroom for those permissions. And somebody gave a very good example. It was Brian Crooks. So they use cell phones to tune their instruments. It's efficient, it gives them more class time to do so. So he would put in a request to allow his music class to use cell phones to tune each equipment, because everybody uses their own cell phone to do so, and if you don't have a cell phone, you use his cell phone or somebody else's cell phone to do so. So that was like a reasonable request where we could see a class using a cell phone for an academic purpose.
So we've talked about this. My biggest concern throughout this whole process is discipline, parental buy-in, and staff buy-in. How do you intend to handle that?
So it starts with you approving this tonight, because we need all summer in order for us to start this implementation. We need summer for our planning, we need summer to be able to notify parents, to be able to talk through concerns, to be able to set those boundaries and standards. We need to be able to have the reminders. Our administrative staff needs to be able to put plans in place to make sure they are doing walkthroughs, checking classrooms, supporting teachers, having systems in place to pick out those confiscated phones. So they've all seen the potential policy you're going to approve, but we can't implement until you approve it. Once you do, it's going to be a busy summer, making sure that everything's in place. And
The next piece was obviously communication, and not just getting it out to staff, but to the community. We've worked with Dr. Eckler to possibly produce a podcast or a short 3-minute video explaining the policy to people. We're going to try to get it out in as many different ways for, whether you want to read the policy or listen to a podcast about the policy or watch a video about the policy. As long as you pick one of those, you should have a great understanding of what we're looking at.
She developed a more in-depth one for principals, a podcast that's a little bit longer, a little more in-depth for those. We're just trying to hit all the modalities, but in order for us to really do that, we need approval from you, because we can't preemptively send that out and say, watch this when you tell me to vote on that.
So the last we spoke, you were in the process or contemplating an AI type generated video. Have you?
Oh, we're on it already.
We have the podcast. We have.
I know Ms. Eckler thought it.
Dr. Eckler produced an AI video for our AI policy, ironically enough. And the next step will be, we have not yet done one for the cell phone policy.
Are you going to do it?
Well, I'll do it. I've already recorded my my podcast with
He's already recorded his webinar.
The
We are
webinar, yeah.
waiting for July 1st when we start our new contracts, because the current video on AI that we're going to send out to families, we can only use the free bots, and some of them are a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
So we would like to wait till July 1st when we roll over and have a little more access, so that when we're sending it out, it looks extremely professional.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So, I guess there might be some difficult students and parents in the initial process. Teachers decide, it's easier, just ignore it, let the kids have the cell phone, I don't want to deal with it. What's the?
So our teachers are not going to do that. Our teachers are professionals. So if we are implementing, they are to the best of their ability going to make sure that it is implemented. Our administrators are going to make sure it is implemented. And I don't like to refer to it as difficult parents. Every parent wants what's best for their kids, and sometimes that understanding can be challenging. So right now, my building principals know that they're going to try to have those proactive conversations with parents that are concerned about not having their child's cell phone on their physical body all the time. And if they're unable to come to a reasonable understanding and expectation, then those parents will come meet with me. We are going to implement our policies. It is our job. So I will listen, we will support, we will work with our families, and we will do it in a professional and respectful manner. But the expectations are going to stand firm, because we are creating a learning environment that is more conducive for our students.
And it's state mandated.
It is state mandated.
It's not our choice.
Well, the state mandates that you have a policy.
Yes.
And the state recommends that you are cell phone free. So, we are following those guidelines and recommendations, and I firmly believe in the professionalism of our staff, and we will be implementing it. And yes, kids are going to push a limit, and there will be consequences, and it will be inconvenient for parents to have to come in and pick up the phone.
but we also need to be able to implement our policies with fidelity and with that expectation that it is there. So it will be progressive discipline, that'll be part of the rollout, so that parents firmly understand, if your child does this the first time, this is what happens, the second time, this is what happens. And remember, K to 8, we are cell phone free, we should not see those all day long, not in cafeterias, not in the hallway. K 8 is cell phone free.
Can I make a quick suggestion?
Long suggestions.
Well, if Pam can find the funding, we get some extra towers to put in main offices of the building, so if a cell phone is confiscated or a parent is supposed to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was factored in or not.
It was.
Okay.
So in anticipation of us passing this, you guys have already proactively set up the
Created videos,
communication, set up the
yeah.
discipline.
Yep, we're
set-
ready to roll.
Okay, so this isn't like pass the thing, we'll figure it out, you guys are,
No,
you guys are
no,
miles
we
ahead
are
of
ready
us.
to go, we're just following rules and waiting for the official approval.
Any other questions? So I would, being that we've already had the second read, I would look for and do we have a number for this, the electronic policy?
It's a 615.
Want me to- I would look for a motion to adopt policy. Here it is. So I'd look for a motion to adopt P 5131.81A. Just A. Yep. Motion to adopt P 5131.18A.
81.
81A. This one. 81, yep. Electronic devices. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dell, second by Mr. Cormier. Any other discussion? With a roll call vote, Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Peter Powers?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, motion passes unanimously. Good luck. Number 5, request for new course, content literacy for FMS and WMS grade 7 curriculum committee. It came from the curriculum committee with a favorable recommendation.
I can read through a little bit, and then if you guys just wanna, I wasn't at the meetings, but so, wanna hear from you guys what was talked a little bit about. I can give a little overview first. This course would run as needed, based on student data at Flood and Worcester Middle School, starting in 7th grade. There is a need this year at Worcester Middle School for the 25-26 school year, and currently there is not a need at Flood. This new course will be a full year course taught by reading certified staff to students below the 50th percentile in reading who are scoring above the criteria needed to go into an intensive reading class. Students in this class will receive support to apply reading skills to all aspects of their schooling. And then the curriculum, as we kind of talked about a little while ago, will be written in the summer for a fall 2025 start. There is no cost except for the curriculum writers.
Yeah, and basically, you know, it came a little bit late because we were looking at the data, end of year data. We used NWEA, Smart Balanced, Dibbles, and classroom data. And again, her name keeps coming up, but Joanna Nigerian Garb, who works with our reading teachers and the middle school principals, saw this piece of data. You know, again, it's going to be run, I think, at Flood? Or
At Worcester.
At Worcester, I'm sorry, Worcester this year. Right now, the data doesn't show that it's necessary for both schools, but we'll have the curriculum. But because of the timing of the review of the data, it wasn't able to get to you sooner. But we wanted to get it done over the summer, so we can implement it.
And I
in
think a
September.
simple, clear way to look at it is we're expanding our continuum of services. So these are students that don't need the current intensive reading at the lower level, but they still are below the 50th percentile, so would struggle in the general. So what we are doing is making sure that we have a variety of a continuum of service so that all of our students' needs, we're meeting them where they're at. So the data is there, that level is needed,
the writing needs to be done, but it allows us to make sure we're meeting our students where they're at. We're not saying, well, you don't fit in the lower level and you're gonna struggle in the higher level, so we're just gonna let you struggle, right? We're not developing you where you're at. It's nice to see that being done in general education, not just special ed, differentiation.
Any questions? So I'd look for a motion to approve.
So move.
Moved by
Second.
Kenny, second by Ms. Madell. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Ms. Madell.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
Mr. Cormier.
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Powers.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes unanimously. Are you ladies here for the cheerleading? I'm sorry, I didn't
Okay.
notice you, I noticed you, but I didn't tie it together. So I'm gonna go out of order, and are you guys ready for your presentation, or?
Come on up. The mic is all yours.
This is an overnight field trip request from the Stratford High School cheerleading camp to go to Greeley. So you guys get the microphone?
Hi, I'm Coach Alyssa. So this is a 3-night, 4-day cheerleading camp in Pennsylvania. It's taught by Universal Cheerleaders Association. The girls have been going to this camp since before I took over the team. It's a great bonding experience for the girls. They learn all the material for football games, basketball games. They learn stunt sequences that we use in our competition routines. And they learn their sideline cheers there, and they get a big chance to bond as a team because they all stay in one big cabin all by themselves. So, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into.
So, were you a part
No,
of
this was, it was a project.
So this
Yeah.
came directly to you, this request came after the
Yep.
curriculum meeting had happened, so there is no other curriculum meeting before the board meeting, and in order for them to go this summer, so it got brought directly to you.
And
So-
with the- If I may, because along with the proposal, Coach Alyssa did include an explanation about how tryouts were held on May 13th through the 15th. The roster was selected on the 18th. They had their first parent meeting on the 28th. During that meeting is when they gained the permission from the parents for their children to attend. And so as a result, they were able to meet the 3-month, they're aware of the 3-month window, but they weren't able to meet that because of their schedule, so.
And the principal and you guys have reviewed this, all the proper documentation's been signed?
Correct.
Releases, okay. Anybody have any questions? Look for a motion to approve. Moved by Mr. Kennedy,
Second.
second by Mr. Cormier. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Bill O'Brien, yes.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. So I'm taking this as, really, I think I read is up there in the Poconos?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yep, so we're in the woods. It's no cell phone service for the kids, so.
Perfect.
Practice.
Look at that, you're practicing ahead of time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, enjoy your
Thank you.
trip.
Beautiful spot in Poconos, I hope they're awesome, so. Okay, so we're gonna jump down to the capital improvement plan. So we had, that was next in order, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in front of you, you have the new capital improvement plan. I wanna go over, we had been given this a little while back. There's some changes that have been made to it, at the request of the town and through a couple of conversations. So on page 2, your third item up from the bottom, it talks about Bunnell High School scissor lift. There's a $12,000 number there for that. That item is gonna be removed. If you go to the back page on the Bunnell, most of these Bunnell items have been held off, and I'll explain that in a bit, but there's $16,000 for blinds, for the Bunnell High School. Those will be moved up into the capital improvement piece of it. And then at the request of the town and through conversations with the superintendent, they had asked that we add a few things. Our current request is $3,904,292. So they asked that we add, and you guys have the sheet detailing the Honey Spot School. So the Honey Spot roof, AC and roof, they had asked, we had $2,350,000 $576.74. For the solar, they had asked that we had $550,000 for the solar on the Honey Spot roof. For Stratford High, for HVAC maintenance, filter replacement and repair, they asked that we had $300,000. And then I talked about.
What was the Stratford for?
For HVAC maintenance, filter replacement and repair. And so that encompasses the changes. The total amount would be, if I had this right, $7,108,808.74.
I've only seen one thing missing. Jill and I were talking about it before, and I thought it was on there, Mike, but there's nothing on here about the lighting, in the Johnson Auditorium.
And was that on the original?
No, we had asked for it to be added. I had asked for it to make sure that was added on there, because it's, when you go into Johnson, you can't turn the lights on. And then all of a sudden, they just come on their own, and there's like a smell.
Right. Do we have a number for that?
Nope. And I couldn't even try to guess, so I don't know if you can.
I know Rich has had a lot of people out there, he has IT out there, he's brought in for professionals. I think it's such an old system that they can't upgrade it at this time, it would have to be replaced.
There is a section for auditorium lighting.
Yep. And that would be, I guess, where.
And I think should be added. So,
Yeah.
you know, usually it says like all the schools are gonna do, this one just happens to only say flood.
Okay.
And I would think that that's where the funding should be added and, you know, maybe.
So, and where do you, which page is that on?
First page, bottom.
First page, bottom.
House lighting is poor, cannot be replaced due to the type of ceiling and construction. A new ceiling will also be needed because the repairs.
Could we put a placeholder on this though, or does it have, do we have to have a number in for that first and then we can add it next year?
I mean, they've got 750.
I'm not just gonna, we can't just add an arbitrary number.
No.
We need an estimate on that. If Rich and his guys are out there, I'm sure he's looking at it, but.
We haven't voted on this yet in planning either. We
No,
tabled-
no.
We
Well,
decided.
planning did send it over, and we do need to vote on it tonight, and we've had this for quite some time. There's been some small adjustments made to it. Actually, the town's added about $3.5 million to it, and we do need to vote on it tonight, just to allow the town to move forward with their plan. We've had this for months now, so.
Yeah, but we can adjust it next year.
Yeah, I
Once
think
we get the numbers.
I'll have Rich
so.
get a solid number, and at your
Yeah.
August board meeting, we will come and ask for it to be sent forward for an adjustment.
Because the lighting for, there is an LED lighting
Yeah, that's.
line. It's not
that's
falling
different.
under there, are we sure?
No, it's.
Okay.
Where is the LED line?
That's
It's
the
the
third
third
one
line
down
down.
at the top.
It's only $100,000 in the LED.
I didn't know if it was like factored in for parts of it to be fixed at certain times or
No.
whatever, but we would need a number to put it in there and a schedule to put it in there, you know what I mean?
And I think it, you know, became a more significant issue later in the year. It's why we moved
Right.
it beginning at graduation.
Right.
So what I'm gonna ask that we do is on the third line item, and this is Johnson?
Yeah.
So at the third item where it says district-wide, I'm gonna ask that we add Johnson Auditorium. District-wide /
I think that'd be great.
Johnson Auditorium. And they've got a dollar amount there, and I know they have some leftover monies from other projects, and
Yeah, they can move it. If it's on the list, they can at least make an adjustment.
Great.
so.
It's different lighting though.
Yep, so line item number 3, we'll say Board of Ed, district-wide, Johnson Auditorium, LED lighting, convert to that, we'll leave that number there. We'll make those changes like I said, and we'll change the total number to $7,108,808.74.
It's great.
I have a question about it. Well, one, at the May meeting, the planning, we said we would bring it up for a vote at the following meeting. So I haven't had an opportunity to ask Rich these questions because I was waiting for, we canceled the June meeting, so I haven't had a chance to talk to him, but the water filling stations, how many are at each of the buildings? Do they all have them, and how are they? Because it says here there's $10,000 each year for the next 5 years to replace the water filling stations, and some people have been asking me about how it's determined how many water stations are per school, and so I was just wondering if we had any numbers on that.
Every school has water filling stations, so that's the first number. That is to replace them because they need break.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just finished adding one at Huntsville with the last location that we had students at that didn't have a water filling station.
Okay.
I can tell Rich, like, I can
Yeah.
send you that.
Okay,
So I can
thank you.
send it.
Yeah, someone asked me that, so.
I think it depends on the number
Information.
of water fountains that were in there, because they were attached to the water fountains.
They did just seem to replace the old water fountain that you would.
Yeah.
Some, yeah, but some are still the water fountain and,
Just don't work.
yeah,
Right.
they still are drinking out of them, yeah.
Yeah. But, and part of this too is, you know, waiting for the town, they're on a different schedule, it's like with our state funding, you know, we find out the dollars we get from the state after we pass the budget. This is just another step in it, and so we had sent this over as a draft to the town, they reviewed it, they were okay with it, it came from, I don't know if you wanna explain the process, how this list came together?
Yeah, so, and I learned this too this year. So Rich Ruggiero has a electronic copy of this that goes to our principals, who can add things that they wanna talk about. And then he meets with each principal, and based on the principal's needs, that's how this is created. Okay, so that's where this comes from. Then we met with Renee, from the town, as well as Rich, to talk about things that maybe the principals weren't thinking or weren't on their list, to make sure they, you know, had those kind of thought out as well. So, you know, the roots of it come from, and then different things happen, like redoing the parking lot for Eli Whitney, that removes some things, because that's not gonna be done in a different manner, so we're not gonna focus on that. So it's just kind of a give and take in a ballpark figure around 4 million that we typically use. So this one's a little bit higher.
And that's at the request of
That's
the
the
town.
request of the town, they
Yeah.
said we could put more in.
Yeah, it's a schedule for things that need to be done
And-
to maintain the buildings, to wish list.
And just so you know the process, so we approve it, right, and then it goes to the town, they approve it. And then they bond for this in December. So this money doesn't come, so some of these projects will get started on leftover money from the year before, some of them will need to wait.
Over multiple years, it's to 2029.
But some of them are bonded on an annual basis, like some are a 5-year project, but some of these projects that are slated, like the feasibility study of Vanel, which I'll talk about in a minute, but that was approved last year, but they didn't get the money until late December, and so that process is gonna be starting shortly, in the direction we go with that, but so.
Another thing that we brought up during the planning meeting that I haven't heard from Rich, he was gonna see if he could put it in here, was the playground, fencing in the playgrounds, particularly on the busier roads. I see playground improvements to do the pour and fill, stuff, but I didn't see on there the fencing, so I didn't know if you had heard anything from him.
Are there any that are not fenced in?
Yeah, Johnson's not fenced in, Nichols, yeah.
And they are on the list to be fenced in.
Right.
Yeah, I did report on that.
Okay, it's not on here though, it's just
Right.
something separate, okay.
And that might have been approved on last year's, and now it's
Yeah,
off
there
this
was a
year.
rotation list, and so, you know, they did the ones that were closest to the road first, and now Johnson and Nichols will be done.
And that's the same with Eli Whitney, the parking lot. They have a couple of plans, they have 4 or 5 plans, they've been talking with Brian Snyder. Brian's been talking with Rob Viteri, principal, and some of the other staff members as to the best scenario for that. They are gonna recreate a parking lot in the back, they're gonna redo the front parking lot, which will, they'll actually turn them into real handicap spaces, because they're not sized properly. And across the parking lot, we'll turn those into visitor spots, and then they'll regrade the front parking lot, which has a lot of parking. So, and that's in here as well, there's 150 of them. They're in the process, but some of these projects, you know, they work with building staff and administrators to go through it, so we're not necessarily privy to all the information, but it's a, you know, we have, 13 buildings, 14 buildings. It's a huge task, and the town is committed every year to do these, and they do work through them this year, they're committing to an extra $3.5 million, so. Anyway. Any other questions on it, or? So I'd look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dow. I'll second it. Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo?
No.
Chair votes yes. Motion passes 6-1. I'm glad they gave us an extra $3 million.
5-1.
5-1, sorry. Yeah, 5-1. Moving down the list. The overnight field trip, board bylaws. I know we had some discussion about it a month ago. I'd like to have some discussion this evening on it, and then hold it over till the full board is here. We can.
Because otherwise we're gonna be
Okay.
repeating ourselves.
Okay. So I'm gonna just go through really quick.
Yeah.
Just to kind of say some things that I see that, we can get a little formal with it, but, if you guys wanna make notes, so on page 1, items 8, 9, and 10 seem to, replicate item number 3. And none of this is set in stone, so on page 8 is kind of it's the organization of the Board of Ed. And it just talks about it, and I don't think it really clarifies. So I think it should say in there that the Board of Ed shall consist of 7 members, each will be an elector of the town, and shall be elected in a regular meeting for a 4-year term, commencing upon their swearing in. I think it should also say that this is part of the town charter, which will take place on the 2nd Monday of December following their election as per town charter. And then for the organization of the meeting, the Board of Ed shall reorganize at a special meeting called for that purpose on the evening of the swearing in. And I'll have this typed up and we can do it. Page 10, it says chairman's responsibilities, appoint board committees, subject to board approval. It should say, I think, appoint board committees and chairpersons. Page 18. The line where it says the superintendent may serve as ex officio on all committees, it's in 9132C. I think it should go on 9132A just to make it a little, it's kind of hidden in the back, but underneath the remuneration. Page 21. At the bottom, it talks about the orientation in addition to chairpersons are scheduled in 30 days. It says following the election, but the board members aren't even sworn in yet, so typically we do the orientation within 30 days of swearing in. Those are, some of them just, some of it talks about a majority vote of the board. So, and later on page 36, it talks about a majority being 4 members. And I don't know if we should just call out majority vote of 4. Page 31, just a small change. And then I think the last page, which talks about policy, if you've read 99400B, if you've read the policy committee's duties and responsibilities, that's kind of stated in there, almost exactly what's here to some extent. So I don't know that we need that because it's kind of redundant, and it'll be stated in the board policy. So I'll type this up and send it out to you guys, so you can see it, but.
I think we should have, once Bill and Lisa are also available, we should have a meeting where we can all sit down and discuss just the bylaws, not now. And whether it have to be a special meeting or not, I don't know, but so that we can do it sometime in the next month and a half, so that we are ready to present it and move forward with them at the August meeting. But we should be able to schedule that and have all of us together to discuss and go through it and then move it forward to the board to finalize. I think that would be, just a meeting dedicated to that, because there's a lot in this, and everybody has presumably gone through it and may have questions and whatnot, but, you know, we'll have one night, maybe we have to have Floyd present for that, I don't know.
He's reviewed it, but we.
Or John, because he was on the committee, whoever. Jill, you and I sat on the committee, so, we've gone through it a lot and know it pretty well, but I'm sure everybody else has got questions, and I think we should dedicate one solid meeting to that so that we are ready to move it forward and confirm it in August.
Okay. So, that being said, and I'm gonna look for a motion to table, the proposed bylaw.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dell. Second by Mr. Cormier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. There's no discussion on the motion to table.
Thanks, Bill.
And then, just the Vanel feasibility study, again, that's gonna be in the works. On July 9th, I've scheduled a special meeting, for planning. Brian Schneider will be there to do a presentation. We've spoken, with Ms. Graff, who's the principal over there, wanted to make sure that we have the input of Dr. Graff. Make sure we have her input. She knows the building probably better than anybody. Make sure some of her select staff members will be there, including her custodian, who again know the inner workings of it. But we want to have it there so we can get the information. Mr. Schneider will present the process, how the feasibility goes, how the construction process will go, after which we'll have question and answer and some open discussion. But it's something that the town was committed to. It's going to be a fairly large scale project, but it's the more, what we've seen, I think, over the last year and a half is the more people we involve and the more knowledge, the more experience we bring into it, it produces a better product. So I want to make sure that all the people involved have some say in it, so that we don't, like, for instance, Stratford High, in the capital improvement plan, there's not a dollar amount, so we're replacing all the locks at Stratford High because they're not working. During the process, nobody listened. Some people said, those locks are no good. But, so I want to make sure that those mistakes are avoided as we go through it, and that enough people are involved in the process and have input so that, again, we do this, and the town's committed to it too. The mayor is adamant that we're not going to go through an experience like Stratford High. There were some mistakes made there. It's an amazing school, but there were some mistakes made there. And so I'm trying to create that environment now where we have the input, and so that'll be taken. It won't be the last, but it's a start, and it's the start of the conversation. So that's where that's at. No committee assignments, committee report, curriculum.
You guys heard about the curriculum that was approved a little while ago. I don't know if you guys would like to speak to the Medic Algebra 1 proposal that was talked about.
What's that? Is it the program?
Yeah, the items for information that you
Yeah, that's right. John Donahue came to us, and there was a program he wanted to sort of test drive with some of his teachers. It didn't require a formal vote, but at this stage of the game, I want everything to kind of come before the curriculum committee and the board, just so they know. So they're going to be just supplementing the board-approved curriculum with this instructional technology, and they're going to report back to see if it's something we want to pursue in the future. That was the only other thing on the agenda.
And I'm guessing based on the amount of curriculum writers you have this summer, we're going to be seeing a lot of you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Ms. Fidel.
Had our meeting right before this, board meeting, and pretty cut and dry. We're ending the year on a pretty decent note, and that's where we want to be.
Planning, we did not meet. As I stated, we're gonna have a special meeting in July, and then we'll move things from there, and then hopefully the town will move forward with their portion of their approval of the capital improvement plan, and we can get some of those projects moving along. Liaison BOE committee, my name's on there, but I'm not on it. Did you you guys, it says it didn't meet, so. Policy review, we, did not meet on the 18th, we did not have a quorum, but we've been very busy and, you know, I think we've got some new things coming, as the year progresses. We're committed to going through the whole book and updating as much as we can and staying consistent with it, so. Athletic review?
Yep, we didn't get to meet, this month, but we worked over Google Documents and, worked on our, committee report, or, roles and responsibilities, and, you know, we'll review that next month as we go over the bylaws.
And bylaws, we will be having a special meeting soon. Naming committee, personnel committee.
Same thing, some emails, working on, the roles and responsibility for bylaws to be determined.
Okay. CS.
No updates this month. No updates this
Okay.
month.
So the town building needs committee will be meeting on July 7th. I will be attending that meeting, so I'll get you an update then. I don't know if there's anything else, just kind of to end, we had two amazing, and we didn't speak about it, I don't think, but we had two amazing graduations recently. It was awesome to see the kids go through the process. The two schools now have been at the graduation of both the schools, they both do it slightly differently. I think if you ask one of us, all of us have preferences to which we like or don't like. But they were both amazing, the kids were ecstatic, it was a great day, we had to postpone it for a day, which I think was the right decision. It was a beautiful night, you know, maybe a little warm, but a beautiful night, but I'm just, you know, it's just great to see these kids as they go through, and I think I was talking to Mr. Cormier, like, you know, every older generation says this next generation's a disaster, but as we saw those kids walk across the podium and hear the accolades and the things they've accomplished, I came to the belief that no, actually this next generation is gonna be okay, you know, and we proved our older generation wrong, and I know they'll prove us wrong, so, you know, we're at the end of the school year. The next time we see you at an official board meeting, we will be unfortunately welcoming you back to school, so.
Fortunately.
Well, unfortunately of those of you who wish the summer to last forever, but it goes by quick, so enjoy it, make the most of it, and we'll see you soon. Does anybody else have anything?
On 28, you put out a
And my
special
sister
meeting.
Bill,
Oh, Bill, yep.
we also had a great continuing ed graduation. And it was a pleasure to give a $1,000 scholarship to one of the students, which hasn't been done before.
That's great.
That's awesome, thank you.
You put out the special meeting for on July 9th.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's not there,
Oh.
upcoming dates.
Okay.
Like, I'm out of town that week.
Okay, yes.
They're out of town the week after, so.
Yeah. Anything else? All right, look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So there's Padell, seconded by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion? Actually no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you for attending, Mr. O'Brien, and we
Good
wish
night,
you
Bill.
continued recovery.
See you soon.
Bye, Bill. You too.
Well, I can't.
Who's taking it up?